The moment he pointed at me, I knew something inside my life had just ended. Take her. His voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. When a man like him speaks softly, people move faster. Two security guards grabbed my arms before I could even finish placing the champagne tray down. The glasses rattled together, one slipped, shattered across the marble floor. The sound echoed like a gunshot inside the ballroom. My fingers tightened around the tray edge. Instinct, fear. I didn't even know which one anymore. I didn't steal anything, I whispered. But no one listened. The party music kept playing, slow jazz, elegant, expensive. The kind of music rich criminals pretend makes them respectable. The man standing across from me, the one who had just ordered my arrest, watched with calm eyes, cold eyes, the kind that measure consequences before they measure people. He was known as Adrian Volkov, not just a mafia boss. He controlled men who controlled ports. Those ports controlled weapons. Those weapons controlled wars most people never even hear about. And right now, he thought I had stolen from him. The head of security stepped forward holding a velvet jewelry box. Missing diamond heirloom recovered from her service station. My heartbeat stumbled. That wasn't possible. I swallowed. My throat felt dry enough to crack. I've never even touched that, I said. My voice almost broke near the end. Adrian tilted his head slightly, studying me like I was a math problem already solved. You expect me to believe coincidence? He asked. Short, controlled, dangerous. The room felt smaller, the air heavier. I could smell expensive perfume mixed with cigar smoke. That smell always reminded me of childhood nightmares I tried to forget. One guard twisted my wrist behind my back. Pain shot up my arm. I exhaled slowly, trying not to panic. Then, the security chief reached into my apron pocket and pulled it out. The antique silver lighter. My lighter. The engraved family crest caught the chandelier light for half a second. That was when everything changed. The security chief froze. Adrian's eyes dropped to the lighter. For the first time, his expression cracked, just slightly. I felt my stomach drop because I knew what that crest meant. Not to the world, but to men like him. And before anyone could speak, the ballroom doors slammed open. The first time I served champagne under crystal chandeliers that cost more than my entire life, I promised myself I would stay invisible. Invisible people survive. That was the rule I lived by after everything fell apart. I balanced the silver tray carefully as I walked between tables filled with men who smiled too easily and laughed too quietly. The kind of men who shook hands while planning funerals behind each other's backs. I kept my eyes lowered, always respectful, always forgettable. My rent was 3 months overdue. My younger brother's school fees sat unpaid inside my bag. Every step I took tonight felt like walking across thin ice. Just finish the shift, Mira. Just survive tonight. The music was slow jazz, smooth, calm. But the smell of cigars mixed with expensive cologne made my stomach tighten. It reminded me of long hallways, locked doors, whispers I wasn't supposed to hear as a child. I swallowed and forced the memory down. A guest reached for a glass from my tray. His gold watch caught the chandelier light. I nodded politely. Then the room shifted. It always does when he enters. Conversations lowered, shoulders straightened. Smiles became careful instead of confident. Adrian Volkov walked into the ballroom like gravity bent slightly around him. He wore a black suit without decoration, no flashy jewelry, no loud colors. Power didn't need decoration when it already owned the room. I tried not to look at him, but my eyes betrayed me for half a second. He moved with calm certainty, not rushed, not slow. Like a man who never doubted people would wait for him. They did. Someone once explained men like him to me in a whisper long ago. They don't run cities. They own the people who run them. I shifted my tray to my other hand. My fingers felt slightly numb. Stay invisible. I stepped backward toward the service station table where extra bottles were lined perfectly. That was when I noticed the velvet jewelry box sitting near the wine cooler. It wasn't mine. It wasn't supposed to be there. I frowned slightly. Maybe another waitress left it. I reached to move it aside so it wouldn't fall, but before my fingers even touched it, "Take her." The words sliced through the room like cold steel. I froze. For 1 second, I thought I imagined it. Then 2 guards grabbed my arms. The tray slipped from my hands, glass shattered across the marble floor. Champagne sprayed across my shoes, sticky and cold. Gasps fluttered around the ballroom, but no one stepped forward. Not one person. "I didn't do anything," I said quickly. Too quickly. My voice sounded smaller than I wanted. One guard twisted my wrist behind my back. Pain shot through my arm. I inhaled sharply. "Don't cry. Don't cry. Don't give them weakness." They dragged me forward across the polished floor. My shoes slipped slightly against broken glass, and then I stood in front of him. Adrian Volkov looked down at me like he was examining a cracked piece of glass someone handed him. Not angry, not shouting, just calculating. The head of security stepped beside him, holding the velvet box. "Missing diamond heirloom," the man announced. "Found at her service station." My heartbeat stumbled. That didn't make sense. I had never seen that box before tonight. My mouth opened, then closed again. Words tangled in panic. "I swear I didn't steal anything," I said. Adrian tilted his head slightly. "You expect coincidence inside my house?" he asked. His voice stayed low, controlled. That made it worse somehow. I felt every eye in the ballroom watching me, judging, enjoying. Rich people loved watching someone fall. It made them feel safer about their own sins. "I'm just staff," I whispered. The security chief stepped closer and began searching my apron pockets. My chest tightened. No, please, not that pocket. His fingers pulled something out slowly. The antique silver lighter dropped into his palm. My stomach dropped like an elevator with cut cables. The chandelier light hit the engraved crest carved into the metal. A wolf wrapped around a broken crown. I stopped breathing. The room felt suddenly smaller, quieter, heavier. The security chief's expression changed first. His jaw tightened. Adrian's gaze lowered to the lighter. His eyes narrowed just slightly. He held out his hand. The guard placed the lighter into his palm. He turned it once, slowly, studying it. My fingers curled into fists at my sides. I couldn't move, couldn't speak. My heartbeat pounded so loudly it felt like the whole room could hear it. That lighter wasn't just metal. It was the only thing I kept from a life I buried, a life that almost destroyed me. "Where did you get this?" Adrian asked quietly. My throat tightened. I stared at the floor. "It was my father's," I said. Not a lie. Not the whole truth, either. Silence stretched across the ballroom like a tightening rope. I remembered my father's voice suddenly, the smell of leather chairs, the sound of men arguing in languages I didn't understand as a child. The way he placed the lighter into my small hand one night while telling me to run if anyone ever asked questions about it. My chest burned with the memory. "I don't steal," I added softly. Adrian stepped closer. I could smell faint tobacco on his jacket. His presence felt like standing near a storm that hadn't decided whether to strike yet. "Everyone steals something," he said. His fingers traced the engraving again. Then, the ballroom doors slammed open so hard they hit the walls. Several older men rushed inside wearing dark formal coats. Their expressions weren't party expressions. They were recognition expressions. One of them stared directly at the lighter in Adrian's hand, then at me. His face turned pale. "That crest," he whispered. The entire room went silent. And in that moment, I realized my invisible life had just been dragged into a world I spent years trying to escape. There was no running anymore. Not tonight. They didn't drag me out of the ballroom the way I expected. That almost made it worse. The older men who had burst inside whispered urgently to Adrian. Their voices stayed low, but I caught fragments. "Impossible. That bloodline ended, if it's real." My stomach twisted tighter with every broken sentence. Adrian didn't speak for a long moment. He just kept turning the lighter between his fingers like he was testing if it might disappear if he stared long enough. Then he nodded once. "Clear the floor," he said. The music stopped instantly. Guests began leaving without protest. That's how power works in his world. No arguments, no questions, just obedience that looks like politeness. 2 guards escorted me toward a private hallway behind the ballroom. My heels clicked sharply against marble floors. Each step echoed louder than the last. I tried to slow my breathing. Think, just think. The hallway smelled different. Less perfume, more leather and polished wood. It smelled like money. And secrets. They stopped in front of a heavy wooden door. One guard opened it. The interrogation room was smaller than I imagined. No chains, no weapons hanging on walls, just a long, dark table and 2 chairs. That made it more frightening somehow. Men who didn't need torture tools usually had worse methods. They pushed me into the chair. My wrists were still pinned behind me. I swallowed hard. Seconds later, Adrian entered alone. The guards stayed outside. The door clicked shut behind him. Silence wrapped around the room. He placed the lighter gently on the table between us, like it was fragile or dangerous. Maybe both. "You understand what that symbol represents?" he asked. I stared at it without answering. He leaned back slightly, studying my face, waiting. He had the patience of someone used to controlling time itself. Finally, I nodded. "My father used to say it was just old history," I whispered. Adrian's eyes sharpened. "That crest belonged to the Sokolov strategists," he said. His voice stayed calm, but something underneath it tightened. Respect, suspicion, maybe fear. I looked down at my hands. My fingers trembled slightly. I curled them into my palms. "They weren't fighters," he continued. "They planned wars before wars even started." He paused. "In Mafia structure, power is not only guns. Some families control soldiers, some control money. Families like Sokolov controlled outcomes." I remembered overhearing something like that as a child, men arguing over maps, my father always silent, just listening. "I haven't heard that name in years," Adrian said quietly. Neither had I. "I told you," I said softly. "It belonged to my father, that's all." His gaze stayed locked on me. "You expect me to believe a waitress working double shifts is connected to one of the most feared planning families in organized crime history?" My voice almost cracked. "That family is gone." He didn't answer immediately. That silence stretched long enough to feel like drowning. Then he leaned forward slightly. His elbows rested on the table. "Someone planted that heirloom diamond near your station," he said. My head snapped up. "I didn't—" "I know," he interrupted calmly. The words hit me like sudden air after suffocating underwater. I blinked. "You know?" His eyes narrowed slightly. "I don't make arrest orders without proof," he said. "But I also don't ignore patterns." He tapped the lighter once. "This is a pattern." I exhaled slowly. My chest loosened just a little. But fear didn't leave. It just changed shape. "Then why humiliate me out there?" I asked before I could stop myself. The question hung between us like fragile glass. He studied me again. Longer this time. "Because whoever planted that diamond wanted attention focused on you, publicly," he said. "If I protected you too quickly, they would hide deeper." My heartbeat stumbled again. "You used me as bait," I whispered. His jaw tightened slightly, almost invisible, but I saw it. "Yes." Honest, brutally honest. I looked away. My throat burned suddenly, not from fear this time, from something sharper, something heavier. "I'm not part of that world anymore," I said quietly. "I left when I was 13. Memories crashed into me without warning, running down cold hallways, my mother crying behind closed doors, my father pressing the lighter into my hand. "Hide who you are, always." I squeezed my eyes shut for half a second. "My family disappeared," I continued. Enemies? Internal betrayal? I don't even know the full truth. Adrian listened without interrupting. That surprised me. I work 2 jobs, I said. I take care of my brother. That's my world now. Silence again. Then he stood up slowly. He walked toward the window behind me. His reflection stared back at both of us in the dark glass. Do you know what happens when old Mafia bloodlines resurface? He asked. I shook my head. They become targets, he said. My stomach tightened instantly. Some people would kill you to erase old history, he continued. Others would capture you to control what that history knows. My fingers tightened against the chair edge. I don't know anything useful, I whispered. He turned back toward me. I believe you don't know everything, he said. That single sentence scared me more than accusation, because it meant he believed I knew something. And maybe, somewhere inside forgotten memories, I did. He walked back to the table, picked up the lighter, held it out toward me. I hesitated. Keep it, he said. I slowly took it. The metal felt warm from his hand. The engraving pressed into my palm like a warning. You will not return to waitressing, he added. My head snapped up. I can't lose that job. You already did, he said calmly. My chest tightened in panic. Then how will I— You will stay here. The words dropped like stones. As what? I asked. He studied me for one long moment. Someone I can watch, he said. My heartbeat raced. Fear, anger, survival instinct, all crashing together. And if I refuse? I whispered. His expression didn't change. You won't survive outside tonight. The truth in his voice froze my blood. I looked down at the lighter in my hand. The past I ran from had just locked the door behind me. And somehow, I had just stepped into Adrian Volkoff's world, permanently. I didn't sleep that night. They gave me a guest suite that looked larger than the apartment I shared with my brother. Soft carpet, floor-to-ceiling windows, a bed that felt like it could swallow me whole. Luxury never comforted me. Luxury reminded me of the last place I felt safe, before everything burned down. I sat at the edge of the bed, turning the silver lighter in my hands. The engraved wolf circled the broken crown under the dim lamplight. My thumb traced the edges like I was checking if the past was still sharp enough to cut me. It was. A soft knock came at the door just before sunrise. I flinched. Ms. Mira? A calm female voice called. You are requested downstairs. Requested, not ordered, but it meant the same thing here. I slipped the lighter into my pocket and stood. My legs felt heavy, like each step carried years of memories I tried to bury. The hallway outside my room was silent. Thick rugs swallowed my footsteps. 2 guards walked a few feet behind me as I followed the house staff through wide corridors filled with paintings that looked older than most governments. This wasn't just a mansion. It was a fortress disguised as wealth. We stopped inside a long conference room. Maps covered one entire wall. Digital screens showed shipping routes, financial charts, and security feeds from locations I didn't recognize. My stomach tightened. This was how crime worked at his level. Not alley deals, not street gangs. Systems. Adrian stood at the far end of the table, speaking quietly to 3 men in tailored suits. His posture stayed relaxed, but the men around him leaned forward slightly, like planets caught in his gravity. He stopped speaking when I entered. Those cold, calculating eyes shifted toward me again. You will assist operations coordination, he said simply. I blinked. I don't understand. One of the men beside him chuckled nervously. Adrian didn't look at him. The man immediately stopped. You have strong observation habits, Adrian continued. You noticed the heirloom box was misplaced before you were accused. I swallowed. That wasn't survival instinct. That was years of watching rooms for danger. I just pay attention, I said quietly. That is rare, he replied. He motioned toward a chair across the table. I sat slowly. My fingers rested tightly together in my lap to hide how much they were shaking. Adrian pressed a button on the table. A map zoomed onto the central screen showing cargo routes across several countries. In simple terms, he said, glancing at me briefly, legal businesses move goods between ports. My organization controls protection for those routes. He paused, like he was choosing words carefully. Protection means ensuring shipments arrive without theft, sabotage, or interference from rival groups. I nodded slowly. The explanation felt almost clean, almost businesslike, but my father used to explain it differently when he thought I wasn't listening. Protection meant deciding who was allowed to succeed and who disappeared. You will review scheduling overlaps, Adrian said. If 2 shipments create vulnerability, you flag it. I blinked again. You're giving me responsibility inside your network, I said. I am giving you observation work, he corrected calmly. There it was, the control in his voice, the reminder of hierarchy. Still, he trusted me enough to place me inside his operations room. That terrified me more than imprisonment would have. I leaned closer to the screen. Numbers, routes, timestamps. Patterns began forming inside my mind without permission. My chest tightened. I remembered sitting quietly behind my father's chair as a child, watching him move markers across maps while men argued around him. He never raised his voice, he just rearranged outcomes. I shook the memory away quickly. There, I said suddenly, pointing at 2 crossing shipping routes near eastern ports. Those overlap within 40 minutes. If someone tracked timing patterns, that could create a weak escort window. The room fell silent. One of the suited men leaned forward quickly, scanning the screen. His face shifted with concern. She's right, he muttered. Adrian didn't speak. He just watched me, long, studying every reaction like he was searching for hidden pages inside me. How did you notice that so fast? He asked. My throat tightened. I like puzzles, I said softly. Not a lie. Not the full truth, either. He nodded once, accepting the answer without challenging it. That made me nervous. Men like him usually questioned everything. Adjust escort rotation, he ordered one of the men. Increase patrol overlap by 15 minutes. The man nodded quickly and left the room. The remaining staff slowly followed, leaving only Adrian and me inside the large conference space. Silence returned like a heavy curtain. I stared at the map screen just to avoid looking at him. You've seen rooms like this before, he said suddenly. It wasn't a question. My fingers tightened against the chair arm. I told you, my father worked with people in that world, I said carefully. He walked around the table slowly, each step controlled, measured. He stopped beside my chair, looking down at the screen. Your family didn't just work with them, he said quietly. They advised them. My heartbeat stumbled. I don't know anything useful anymore, I whispered. He didn't respond right away. Then he said something that made my chest tighten for an entirely different reason. You warned them last night. I blinked, confused. Who? The older men who recognized your crest, he said. You stood slightly in front of them when the guards reached for weapons. I froze. I hadn't even realized I did that. I wasn't thinking, I said quickly. Exactly, he replied. His voice lowered slightly. You protect people, instinctively. I swallowed hard. My voice almost cracked when I answered. Sometimes protection is just delaying damage. He studied my face again. That unreadable expression returned, the one that looked like he was weighing something heavier than logic. Then, suddenly, alarms chirped from the security panel across the room. Both of us turned. A red alert blinked across one of the monitors, showing a convoy route. Adrian stepped forward instantly, his calm presence sharpened into command authority. Report, he said into his headset. Static. Then a voice answered. Unidentified vehicle tracking secondary escort path, possible surveillance or setup. My stomach dropped. Adrian's jaw tightened. His eyes flicked toward me for half a second before returning to the screen. Activate diversion protocol, he ordered. Route convoy through harbor backup channel. The voice confirmed and cut off. The alarm stopped seconds later. The room fell quiet again. I released a breath I didn't realize I was holding. My hands trembled slightly against my knees. "You see," Adrian said quietly, "this is the world you stepped into." I stared at the map screen, lines crossing continents, routes carrying power disguised as commerce, danger hidden behind organization. "And if I make a mistake?" I asked softly. He looked at me directly. "People die," he answered. Simple, honest, terrifying. I nodded slowly, because I already knew that truth. I just never thought I would be responsible for it. He reached into his pocket and pulled out something small. He placed it beside my hand on the table. A security access card. "Level 2 clearance," he said. "Limited areas only." I stared at it. "You're trusting me," I whispered. "I am watching you," he corrected calmly. That should have felt like a threat, but something inside his tone felt like protection wrapped in control. I picked up the card slowly. My fingers brushed against the lighter still hidden in my pocket. Past and present pressed together inside my chest until breathing felt difficult. And somewhere deep inside my mind, old instincts I thought were buried started waking up. The first week inside Adrian Volkov's world taught me one rule very quickly. Danger never announces itself loudly. It arrives quietly, hidden inside routine. I sat inside the operations room early that morning, reviewing shipment schedules while the sun barely touched the horizon outside the tall windows. The building stayed silent at this hour. Only security staff moved through hallways like shadows trained to breathe without sound. My fingers traced rows of timestamps across the tablet screen. Patterns formed naturally in my head now. It scared me how familiar it felt, like muscle memory from a life I never agreed to learn. I shifted in my chair. My shoulders felt stiff from hours of concentration. The silver lighter rested beside the tablet. I had started placing it there without thinking, a habit, a comfort, or maybe a reminder that my past was sitting beside every decision I made. The door opened quietly. I didn't look up immediately. I already knew it was him. The room changed temperature when Adrian entered. Not physically, something else, something heavier. "You start work before sunrise every day," he said. His voice stayed calm, but I heard curiosity hiding underneath. "Problems appear earlier than people expect," I replied. I regretted answering so honestly the moment the words left my mouth. He stepped closer to the screen beside me. His shoulder almost brushed mine. I felt heat rise along my neck. I focused harder on the tablet. "What are you reviewing?" he asked. "Escort rotations for northern cargo routes," I said. "There's a timing delay between checkpoint 2 and checkpoint 3. He leaned slightly forward, close enough that I could smell faint coffee and tobacco. My heartbeat stumbled, just slightly. "Show me," he said. I zoomed the screen and highlighted the gap. If someone tracked the convoy from checkpoint 2, they could predict arrival delay at checkpoint 3, I explained. That creates a blind escort window. He studied the numbers silently. His expression stayed unreadable, but I noticed his fingers tap the table once, a habit when he processed risk. "Adjust the rotation," he said into his headset calmly. A confirmation voice answered immediately. Silence returned again. He didn't move away. My fingers tightened around the tablet edge. My mind told me to breathe slower, stay steady, stay professional. "You've prevented 3 logistical vulnerabilities this week," he said quietly. I blinked, surprised. "I'm just observing," I answered. "You are stabilizing operations," he corrected. The compliment felt heavy, dangerous, like being noticed inside a world where attention often ended in death. "I don't want power," I said softly before I could stop myself. His gaze shifted toward me, slow, focused. "Most dangerous leaders never want it," he replied. The words sent a chill down my spine. Before I could answer, his phone vibrated sharply against the table. He checked the screen. His jaw tightened slightly. "Meeting. Stay here," he said. He left quickly. The room felt suddenly larger and colder. I released a breath I didn't realize I was holding. I leaned back in the chair and closed my eyes for a second. The faint scent of the room's leather furniture triggered an old memory. My father, sitting across from a long table, maps spread around him, men arguing loudly while he stayed silent, then moving one small marker that ended the argument entirely. I opened my eyes quickly. No, that life ended. I focused back on the tablet. Minutes passed quietly, maybe an hour. Then the system alert blinked red. My stomach dropped instantly. Unscheduled escort route change detected. I sat up straight. My fingers moved quickly across the security dashboard. The convoy tracking line shifted slightly, then froze, then rerouted without authorization. That wasn't a technical error. That was manual interference. My heartbeat raced. Think fast. I accessed backup surveillance logs. Someone inside internal security had overridden checkpoint clearance. My throat tightened. Internal betrayal. I grabbed the desk phone and hesitated. If I reported incorrectly, I could cause chaos across his entire network. If I stayed silent, people could die. My fingers trembled slightly as I pressed the emergency operations line. Operations Control, a guard answered. Convoy 7A rerouted through Dock Corridor C, I said quickly. That route creates ambush exposure within 12 minutes. Stop clearance authorization now. Silence crackled on the line. Verification? The guard asked. I'm level 2 clearance, I said, my voice almost cracked. Check override ID tag Alpha Red 29. It's internal breach. More silence. Seconds stretched painfully. Then alarms erupted across the building. I flinched at the sudden noise. My chest tightened as red alerts flashed across the screens. I swallowed hard. Footsteps rushed through the hallway outside. The door burst open. Adrian entered with 3 security officers behind him. His eyes locked onto me instantly. What did you see? He asked. Short, controlled, dangerous. I stood quickly. My legs almost betrayed me. Internal clearance override, I said. Convoy redirected into ambush corridor. One officer rushed to the console, verifying my data. His face paled within seconds. She's right, he said. Adrian's gaze sharpened. His entire posture shifted from calm authority into something sharper. Predator alert. Lock internal network access, he ordered. Freeze clearance credentials matching Alpha Red 29. The officers rushed out immediately. Silence returned again, but heavier this time. He turned toward me slowly. You saved that convoy, he said. My chest tightened. I shook my head slightly. I just noticed a pattern. His eyes searched my face like he was trying to understand something deeper than my words. You noticed betrayal, he corrected. My fingers tightened against my sides. My heartbeat still raced against my ribs. I didn't want people to die because I stayed quiet, I whispered. He stepped closer, not threatening, not soft either, something in between. Most people inside this world survive by ignoring betrayal, unless it targets them personally, he said. I'm not most people, I replied quietly. Silence stretched again. His gaze dropped briefly toward the silver lighter resting beside the tablet, then back to my face. You carry instincts trained for strategic survival, he said. My throat tightened. Fear crawled slowly up my spine. I told you. I left that world, I whispered. His voice lowered slightly. Your mind didn't. The truth of that sentence hit harder than any accusation. My voice came out smaller this time. I don't want to become part of it again. For the first time, something flickered behind his calm expression. Regret, maybe understanding. It vanished quickly, but I saw it. You already are, he said quietly. My chest ached hearing it spoken aloud. He reached toward the tablet, reviewing convoy status updates. The alerts slowly shifted from red to yellow, then green. Crisis contained. He released a slow breath. I noticed tension leave his shoulders just slightly. Then he surprised me. "You will report directly to me from now on," he said. My eyes widened. "That will make people suspicious," I said. "It will make you safer," he replied. I swallowed. My voice almost cracked again. "And if you are the danger I should fear?" I asked softly. The question hung in the air between us like fragile glass. He studied me for a long moment, then answered quietly. "If I wanted to harm you, you would not be sitting here asking that question." Cold truth, but honest. My fingers brushed the lighter unconsciously. My heart felt heavy, confused, strangely calmer and more terrified at the same time. Protection inside this world always came with chains attached. And something inside me was starting to trust him. That realization scared me more than any ambush ever could. Trust inside Adrian Volkoff's world didn't grow like normal trust. It grew like glass forming under pressure, beautiful, fragile, always one crack away from shattering. 2 weeks passed after the convoy incident. My work moved directly under Adrian's supervision now. That meant more access, more responsibility, more danger. I sat across from him inside his private office, reviewing port security updates. The room smelled faintly of cedarwood and black coffee. A quiet rain tapped against the tall windows, soft but constant. Rain always made my chest feel heavy. It reminded me of the night my family disappeared, the night my mother pushed me into a car while shouting for me to protect my brother no matter what. I swallowed the memory down and focused on the files in front of me. "There's a delay pattern inside customs clearance at Port 12, I said. Adrian leaned back in his chair. His eyes stayed on me instead of the documents. "Intentional?" he asked. "Maybe," I replied. "Or someone testing your response timing." He nodded slightly, that silent approval again, the one that made me feel proud and terrified at the same time. "You notice patterns others miss," he said. My fingers tightened around the tablet edge. Compliments from him always felt like stepping closer to fire. "I notice survival gaps," I answered quietly. Silence stretched between us, comfortable, dangerous, something neither of us spoke about. His phone buzzed sharply on the desk. He glanced at the screen. His expression hardened instantly. "Security breach," he said calmly. "Internal archives accessed." My stomach dropped. "What archives?" I asked. He stood slowly. His presence filled the room with sudden tension. "Strategic vault," he said. My heartbeat stumbled. The strategic vault stored long-term Mafia intelligence, financial networks, territory plans, alliances, enemy vulnerabilities, information powerful enough to start wars. We walked quickly through several hallways toward the secure archive level. Guards rushed past us, their movements sharp and urgent. My palms felt damp. My breathing shortened slightly. Something inside me twisted with warning. When we reached the vault floor, security officers stood around a terminal screen reviewing access logs. Their faces were tense, careful. One officer stepped forward and handed Adrian a digital tablet. He scanned it silently. Then his eyes lifted slowly toward me, cold, controlled. But something darker moved behind them. "Access credential used. Matches your clearance ID," he said. My world stopped. "No," I whispered instantly. "That's impossible." He turned the screen toward me. My access code blinked across the log history. Archive files accessed 40 minutes earlier. My hands started shaking. "I didn't go near the archive floor today," I said quickly. My voice cracked near the end. "You can check surveillance." His jaw tightened slightly. "We already did," he said. My chest tightened painfully. "And?" I asked, almost afraid to hear the answer. "You appear on the camera entering this floor," he said quietly. The words felt like knives sliding under my ribs. "I didn't," I whispered. My heartbeat pounded so loudly I could barely hear my own voice. "Someone copied my credentials." No one spoke. The room felt suffocating. Security officers avoided my eyes. They already believed the data. Data never lied in their world. Adrian studied my face for a long moment, searching, measuring. "I trusted you with operational access," he said slowly. My throat burned. "I didn't betray you." His voice dropped lower. "Then explain why restricted files connected to rival syndicate movements were opened using your clearance." I froze. Rival syndicate. My stomach twisted violently. Someone wasn't just framing me. They were preparing a war. "I don't know," I whispered. The truth sounded weak, helpless, useless. Silence stretched painfully. Then Adrian stepped closer. His voice stayed calm, but the cold inside it deepened. "Every betrayal inside my organization starts with someone saying those exact words." My eyes burned. I forced myself not to cry. "I saved your convoy," I said softly. "I warned your elders. I helped stabilize your roots. Why would I sabotage everything now?" His expression flickered for half a second. Pain, conflict, something human. Then it disappeared. "Because long-term spies earn trust before they destroy it," he said. The words hit harder than any physical blow. I looked away quickly. My chest ached so sharply it made breathing difficult. My fingers tightened around the lighter inside my pocket until the metal edges pressed painfully into my skin. I wanted to tell him everything, about the memory fragments, about the strange documents I found hidden in my father's belongings years ago, about the unknown enemy that wiped out my family and might still be hunting strategic bloodlines. But if I spoke, I could expose secrets powerful enough to trigger war across multiple crime syndicates, and Adrian's enemies would know he protected someone connected to that intelligence. I swallowed hard. "I didn't betray you," I repeated. My voice sounded smaller this time, tired, breaking. Adrian turned toward the guards. "Detain her," he said quietly. My heart stopped. 2 guards stepped forward immediately. One reached for my wrist restraints. I didn't resist. I couldn't. Shock numbed my entire body. As they secured my hands, I forced myself to look at Adrian one last time. His gaze stayed locked on me, hard, controlled. But something flickered there again. Regret. Maybe. Or maybe I just wanted to see it. "You're making a mistake," I whispered. His jaw tightened slightly. "I hope so," he said. The words cut deeper than accusation ever could. They escorted me through underground corridors into a holding chamber. The room was small, cold, concrete walls, one narrow bench attached to the wall. The heavy metal doors shut behind me with a final echo. Silence swallowed the space. I sat slowly on the bench. My hands rested in my lap, still restrained. My chest rose and fell unevenly. My heartbeat felt hollow, like it forgot its rhythm. Rainwater dripped somewhere inside the hallway outside the cell. The sound triggered another memory. My father kneeling beside me years ago, telling me survival sometimes meant allowing others to hate you, if protecting them required silence. Tears finally slipped down my face before I could stop them. "I'm still protecting you," I whispered to the empty room. My fingers brushed the lighter inside my pocket carefully. The metal felt colder now. Outside the cell, alarms faintly echoed in the distance. Not emergency alarms, strategic alert signals, war movement signals. Someone was positioning pieces on the board again, and this time, I was the piece being sacrificed. The first thing I learned inside the holding cell, time moves differently when people believe you are a traitor. Minutes felt like hours. Hours felt like days. The only sound inside the concrete room was the faint hum of ventilation and occasional footsteps passing in the hallway outside. I sat with my back against the cold wall. My knees pulled close to my chest. My fingers rested tightly around the silver lighter hidden inside my restrained hands. The metal felt colder than usual. Or maybe I felt colder. I kept replaying Adrian's last words in my head. I hope so. He didn't say he believed me. He didn't say he didn't. That silence between those truths hurt more than anger ever could. A faint vibration echoed through the floor suddenly, then another, distant, heavy. My heartbeat stumbled. Those weren't normal building vibrations. Those were convoy impact tremors, or explosives, or heavy artillery displacement. My chest tightened as instinct crawled up my spine like ice water. War movement. I stood slowly. My legs trembled slightly from hours of sitting, but my mind sharpened instantly. I stepped toward the small, reinforced glass window in the cell door. 2 guards rushed past the hallway at a near jog. Their voices whispered quickly. Harbor route compromised. Multiple vehicles hit. Boss already mobilizing countersweep. My stomach dropped. Rival syndicate. They weren't just spying anymore. They were attacking openly. I pressed my forehead lightly against the glass. My breath fogged the surface for a second. This was moving too fast, too coordinated, which meant someone inside Adrian's network was still feeding them intelligence. And if they accessed the strategic vault using my credentials, they knew convoy rotations, backup escape routes, internal response timing. My chest tightened painfully. They were preparing to destroy him from the inside out. Footsteps approached again, slower this time, controlled, familiar. The cell door unlocked with a heavy mechanical click. Adrian stepped inside alone. His suit jacket was gone. His sleeves were rolled halfway up his forearms, his hair slightly disordered like he hadn't stopped moving for hours. His eyes looked darker than usual, not angry, exhausted. "You were right about internal sabotage," he said quietly. I blinked, surprised. "What happened?" I asked. "2 escort convoys ambushed within 30 minutes, he replied. Both routes accessed through compromised clearance channels. My chest tightened. "I told you someone copied my credentials," I whispered. He nodded slowly, but didn't apologize. Men like him rarely apologized. Power didn't teach that language. "I still don't know if you were part of the breach," he said honestly. The words stung, but I understood them. Trust in his world required proof stronger than emotion. I stepped closer carefully. "Then why are you here?" I asked. Silence stretched between us. Then he answered quietly, "Because sabotage patterns are escalating faster than our internal investigation." My heartbeat quickened. "You need my help," I said. He didn't confirm it. He didn't deny it either. Instead, he placed a tablet on the bench between us. Surveillance maps filled the screen, attack locations blinking across multiple dock routes. I leaned forward instinctively, study the pattern clusters. My brain began connecting lines before I could stop it. 3 attacks, all positioned near secondary evacuation corridors. My stomach twisted. "They're not targeting cargo," I whispered. Adrian watched me carefully. "They're targeting your emergency retreat pathways," I continued. "If they block escape routes, they force your organization into open conflict where they control terrain." Silence filled the room again. His jaw tightened slightly. "That requires high-level operational knowledge," he said. "It requires someone studying how you survive," I replied. I zoomed the map and froze. My fingers hovered over one blinking route. "This one," I whispered. He leaned closer. "That's your northern fallback harbor," I said. "If they compromise this point, they trap your entire fleet inside a restricted corridor." His eyes sharpened instantly. "Explain," he ordered quietly. I swallowed. My throat felt dry. "If they stage another ambush here and block the outer exit routes, your ships have no withdrawal channel," I said. "You would be forced into direct confrontation inside enemy-controlled water lanes." He stared at the screen for a long moment, calculating. Then he pressed his headset. "Activate Shadow Reroute Protocol. Move Northern Fleet through emergency route Delta 7 immediately." A pause, then confirmation answered through static. He lowered his hand slowly. "You just prevented a full-scale territorial war," he said. I released a shaky breath. My knees felt slightly weak. I sat back against the wall again. "I'm trying to prevent people from dying," I whispered. His gaze stayed locked on me. "Why didn't you tell me earlier that you still remembered strategic planning techniques?" he asked. My fingers tightened around the lighter again. "Because I don't want to become what my family was," I said softly. Silence stretched. Then he said something that made my chest ache unexpectedly. "You are already better than most strategists I've worked with." I looked up at him quickly. Shock flickered across my face before I could hide it. "I'm also still a suspect in your investigation," I reminded him. His expression hardened slightly. "Yes." Honest again. The word felt heavy, but real. My chest tightened with mixed relief and pain. "Then why risk bringing me into this?" I asked. He studied me for a long moment. "Because whoever is attacking me believes you are neutralized," he said. "That gives us an advantage." I blinked slowly. "You're using me as hidden defense?" I whispered. "I'm giving you the chance to prove your loyalty," he corrected calmly. The truth sat somewhere between those two sentences. I nodded slowly. "I'll help you stop this," I said. My voice almost cracked near the end, but I kept it steady. Not for him, for the innocent people caught inside a war they didn't even know existed. He stepped closer to the cell door and unlocked my restraints. The metal cuff slid off my wrists with a soft clink. Freedom never felt heavier. "You will remain under surveillance," he said. "I expected that," I replied quietly. He handed me the tablet again. My fingers brushed his for half a second, a small, accidental touch. But something passed between us. Warm, dangerous, confusing. Both of us pulled back slightly. Silence returned again. Then his phone vibrated sharply. He checked the message. His expression darkened instantly. "What happened?" I asked. "One of our internal security directors just disappeared," he said. My stomach dropped. "Is he connected to the clearance breach?" I asked. "Yes," Adrian replied quietly, "and he controlled authentication keys connected to your stolen credentials." Cold fear crawled up my spine. That meant the traitor was either escaping or being silenced. Adrian turned toward the door. "You're moving to protected quarters," he said. "If they targeted your identity to breach my system, they will try to eliminate you next." My chest tightened. Fear pressed against my lungs like heavy water. "Why protect me?" I asked softly. He paused at the doorway, didn't turn around. His answer came quieter than anything he had said before. "Because you've already protected me. More than once." My heartbeat stumbled. He opened the door and stepped into the hallway. I followed slowly behind him, my fingers tightening around the silver lighter in my pocket. Past and present, survival and trust, betrayal and protection, all colliding inside my chest. And deep down, I knew the truth we hadn't said yet. This war wasn't just about territory anymore. It was about bloodlines. And mine was about to surface in ways neither of us were ready for. The protected quarters Adrian moved me into were deeper inside the compound, closer to the command wing, farther from escape routes. That told me everything I needed to know. Protection inside Mafia structures often meant control wrapped in safety. I stood near the window of the new room, watching rain slide down the glass in thin silver lines. The storm outside had grown heavier overnight. Thunder rolled far across the harbor skyline like distant artillery. Storms always made memories louder. My fingers traced the engraved wolf on the lighter again. The metal felt warmer now from constant contact. The broken crown beneath the wolf stared back at me like a silent warning. A sharp knock sounded on the door. I turned quickly. My heartbeat jumped. "Enter," I said cautiously. The door opened. 3 older men stepped inside. Formal coats, calm posture, eyes that carried decades of quiet violence disguised as diplomacy. I recognized one of them immediately. He was the elder who had whispered in shock when he saw my crest at the party. Adrian stepped in behind them, closing the door quietly. His expression was unreadable, but his shoulders carried tension I had never seen before. The eldest man stepped forward slowly. "May I see the lighter?" he asked. His voice was respectful. careful, almost ceremonial. My fingers tightened instinctively around the object. Adrian spoke quietly. They already know what it represents. My chest tightened. The air in the room felt heavier suddenly. My throat felt dry. I placed the lighter carefully onto the table between us. The elder picked it up with slow reverence. His hands trembled slightly as he studied the engraving. "I buried this symbol 30 years ago," he whispered. Silence filled the room. My heartbeat pounded unevenly inside my chest. "It belonged to Viktor Sokolov," the elder continued softly. "The greatest strategic mind the underworld ever produced." My stomach dropped. That name felt like thunder inside my memories. "My father," I whispered. The elder nodded slowly. "We believed his entire bloodline was erased during the Black Corridor Purge," he said. My breath caught in my throat. Black Corridor Purge. I had heard those words whispered only once as a child, during a night when my mother cried behind locked doors while my father packed emergency documents into sealed envelopes. I swallowed hard. "What was that purge?" I asked quietly. The elder exchanged a brief glance with Adrian. Adrian gave a small nod. The elder turned back to me. "It was a coordinated assassination campaign," he explained. Multiple syndicates feared Sokolov's strategic dominance. They united secretly to eliminate your family before your father could restructure global trafficking routes. My chest tightened painfully. My knees felt slightly weak. "They killed my family for planning?" I whispered. "They feared outcomes they couldn't predict," he replied gently. Tears blurred my vision. I blinked them back quickly. "My father told me enemies destroyed everything," I said. "He never explained why." "Because he hoped ignorance would keep you alive," the elder said. Silence stretched across the room like fragile glass. Adrian stepped closer to the table. His gaze never left the lighter. "You never told me you were Viktor Sokolov's daughter," he said quietly. His voice held something new, not anger, hurt. My throat tightened. "I was 13 when he died," I said softly. "I ran. I hid. I changed names. I survived." I looked directly at him for the first time since the elders entered. I didn't even know how powerful his legacy was. His jaw tightened slightly. "You warned my convoy routes," he said slowly. "You predicted ambush structures. You analyzed fallback trap zones." He stopped speaking. His eyes darkened with realization. "You were using Sokolov-level strategy instinctively." I shook my head quickly. "I was trying to keep people alive," I whispered. One of the other elders stepped forward suddenly. "The rival syndicate attacking you," he said to Adrian, "descends from one of the Purge conspirators." The room fell silent instantly. My heartbeat stumbled violently. "They're not just attacking your territory," the elder continued. "They're hunting her bloodline." Cold fear crawled up my spine. Adrian's entire posture changed. His shoulders stiffened. His presence sharpened into something colder, more protective, more dangerous. "Why now?" Adrian asked. "Because her existence changes power balance," the elder said. He turned toward me again. "Your father designed contingency strategies hidden across international networks. Many syndicates believe surviving Sokolov blood can unlock those systems." My stomach twisted violently. "I don't know any hidden systems," I said quickly. "You might," the elder replied gently. "Memories, documents, instinct training." Fragments of childhood flashed across my mind. My father making me solve pattern puzzles, teaching me coded map reading disguised as games. My chest tightened painfully. Adrian turned toward me slowly. "You protected my operations even while being framed as traitor," he said quietly. His voice lowered further. "You stayed silent about your bloodline, even when imprisonment could have destroyed you." I looked down at my hands. My fingers trembled slightly. "I didn't want my past to destroy your organization," I whispered. Silence filled the room again. Then Adrian said something that made my chest ache unexpectedly. You already protected it. The weight of those words pressed heavily against my ribs. One of the elders spoke again. There is more, he said carefully. Both Adrian and I turned toward him. Your father designed one final contingency, the elder continued. If his bloodline survived, authority could be transferred to that heir to stabilize fractured Mafia alliances. My eyes widened in shock. I don't want authority, I said immediately. My voice cracked slightly. I never wanted power. The elder nodded slowly. That is why your father designed the inheritance. Silence again. Adrian studied me closely. Conflict flickered across his expression. Power, responsibility, emotional hesitation, fear of losing control, all colliding behind his calm exterior. You could command alliances that would rival my entire organization, he said quietly. I don't want to command anything, I replied. My voice trembled slightly. I just want this war to stop. Thunder cracked loudly outside the window. The room flickered briefly in stormlight. The elder carefully placed the lighter back onto the table. The rival syndicate knows the crest resurfaced, he said. They will escalate now. My stomach dropped. How? Adrian asked. They will attempt elimination, or forced capture, the elder answered. Silence returned like a tightening noose. Adrian stepped closer to me, closer than he ever had before. His voice lowered almost to a whisper. I imprisoned you when you needed protection, he said. My chest tightened, hearing the quiet regret inside his tone. You didn't know, I replied softly. I should have, he said. His honesty hit harder than apology ever could. The storm outside roared louder. Rain slammed harder against the windows. The entire harbor skyline disappeared behind gray sheets of water. War approaching. My fingers slowly picked up the silver lighter again. The engraved wolf felt heavier than it ever had before. Legacy, survival, responsibility, all burning inside that small piece of metal. I'll help stop them, I said quietly. My voice almost cracked, but stayed steady. Not as a bloodline heir, I continued, as someone who knows what happens when war destroys families. Adrian watched me for a long moment. Then he nodded once. Not as a Mafia boss, as someone accepting a partner inside a battlefield neither of us asked to enter. And for the first time since my childhood collapsed, I stopped running from my name. The storm never stopped that night. Rain slammed against the compound windows so hard it sounded like waves trying to break through the walls. Lightning flashed across the harbor skyline, turning the dark ocean silver for half seconds before everything vanished back into shadow. Storms always meant decisions were coming. I stood inside the command room beside Adrian, watching multiple surveillance screens flicker with movement alerts across shipping routes. My fingers rested against the edge of the table, pressing down just enough to stop them from shaking. The silver lighter sat beside the control console. I kept placing it there without thinking now, like it anchored me between past and present. They've mobilized 4 attack vessels, one of the security officers reported through the intercom, approaching harbor entry lanes from Eastern Channel. My heartbeat stumbled. 4 vessels wasn't intimidation. That was execution planning. Adrian stood with both hands resting against the table, leaning slightly forward as he studied the tactical map. His posture looked calm, but tension sat across his shoulders like steel wires pulled too tight. They're not targeting cargo, I said quietly. They're targeting your command fleet. He didn't look at me. Yes. Lightning flashed again across the windows. Thunder followed seconds later. The entire building vibrated faintly. My chest tightened. They want to force you into open combat, I said. And if they eliminate you personally, your organization fractures instantly. He turned toward me slowly. That is correct, he said. The simplicity of his answer scared me more than panic would have. I stepped closer to the map screen. My mind started connecting route lines automatically. Defensive formations, escape corridors, risk clusters. Your command fleet is positioned too close to Central Harbor, I whispered. If they attack from Eastern Channel while launching internal sabotage here, I pointed toward the inner dock corridor. They trap you between two strike zones. Silence filled the room. Adrian studied the screen for several long seconds. Then he issued rapid orders through his headset. Move command fleet to stagger formation. Activate ghost convoy decoys. Deploy escort submarines under secondary route grid. Multiple confirmations answered through static. My chest rose slowly as tension shifted slightly across the room. But the threat wasn't over. I could feel it. Instinct crawled across my spine again. They'll try a second strike, I said. He glanced at me. Explain. They're attacking externally to force you into movement, I said. Then internal saboteurs will hit command infrastructure while you're focused on fleet defense. His jaw tightened slightly. Security teams are sweeping internal sectors, he replied. I swallowed. My throat felt dry. They won't hit security sectors, I whispered. He studied me carefully. They'll hit the one place you personally monitor operations, I continued. His eyes sharpened instantly. The command tower, he said. Before either of us could speak again, the building lights flickered violently. Alarm sirens erupted across the compound. Red emergency lights flooded the room. My heartbeat slammed against my ribs. Internal explosion detected inside lower command tower, a security voice shouted through the intercom. Adrian turned instantly toward the exit. Stay here, he ordered sharply. I'm coming with you, I said. His eyes snapped toward mine. It's not safe. Neither is letting you walk into a coordinated strike blind, I replied. My voice almost cracked, but I forced it steady. I can help predict their secondary moves. Silence stretched for one heavy second. Then he nodded once. Stay behind me. We ran through emergency corridors filled with flashing red lights. Smoke alarms echoed through the building. Staff and guards rushed past us toward containment sectors. The smell of burning electrical wiring hit my nose sharply. That smell triggered another memory flash. My childhood home hallway filled with smoke. My mother screaming for me to run. My father pushing me toward a hidden exit. My chest tightened painfully. I swallowed the memory down and forced my legs to keep moving. When we reached the lower command tower entrance, heavy smoke poured from the corridor. Security officers were evacuating wounded personnel through side exits. Adrian grabbed a protective mask from the emergency wall unit and handed one to me. Stay close, he said. We pushed inside. The tower interior looked partially destroyed. Flickering monitors, collapsed support panels, emergency lights blinking across damaged communication consoles. My heartbeat raced. My mind scanned the destruction automatically. This wasn't meant to destroy infrastructure, I whispered. Adrian turned toward me. What do you mean? They targeted communication delays, I said. They want to isolate your command from fleet updates. Before he could respond, gunfire echoed from the upper stairwell. Both of us froze. Multiple footsteps rushed downward through smoke-filled air. Ambush team. Adrian pulled his weapon instantly, stepping in front of me. His body blocked direct line of sight from the stairwell entrance. My chest tightened, seeing him move without hesitation. Protective instinct. Gunshots erupted again. Security guards returned fire from hallway cover positions. The sound echoed painfully inside the enclosed tower. Adrian grabbed my arm suddenly, pulling me behind a collapsed console barrier. Stay down, he said sharply. My fingers tightened around the silver lighter still hidden in my pocket. My breathing shortened. Think. Don't panic. Think. The ambush team wasn't firing randomly. Their shot angles avoided destroying central command panels. They're trying to capture the communication encryption servers, I whispered urgently. Adrian glanced at me quickly. If they steal encryption access, they can control your fleet signals, I continued. His jaw tightened instantly. Server core is 3 levels above us, he said. More gunfire erupted overhead. Security radio chatter crackled with emergency commands. Adrian turned toward the stairwell, preparing to push forward. Then another explosion rocked the tower. The ceiling support panel above the hallway collapsed partially, blocking direct access to the stairwell. Smoke thickened rapidly. I coughed slightly. My vision blurred around the edges. "They're forcing you into retreat," I said weakly. He grabbed my wrist firmly. "We're leaving. Now." "No," I whispered. He froze, shocked. "If you retreat, they gain encryption control," I said. "You lose fleet command permanently." He stared at me. Conflict burned behind his eyes. Power, responsibility, survival instinct, emotional hesitation, all colliding at once. "You could die in there," he said quietly. My voice trembled. "People already are." Silence stretched around us while gunfire echoed overhead. I reached into my pocket and placed the silver lighter into his hand. "Server core requires biometric authentication override," I said. "My father designed emergency encryption keys using this crest. If they access the system, I can lock it remotely using Sokolov protocol." His fingers tightened around the lighter. "You never told me this," he said. "I didn't remember fully, until now," I whispered. Memory fragments finally clicked into place inside my mind. My father teaching me emergency lock sequences disguised as childhood puzzle games. Thunder roared outside again. Adrian stared at me for one long second. Then he made a decision. He pressed the lighter back into my palm gently. "You stay behind me," he said, his voice lowered slightly. "I am not losing you to this war." My heartbeat stumbled hearing those words. Warmth and fear collided inside my chest. We pushed toward the damaged stairwell together. Smoke burned my throat as we climbed broken steps toward the encryption server floor. Gunfire echoed closer with every level. My hands trembled slightly as memory fragments guided me through emergency override codes flashing across damaged consoles. Adrian guarded every hallway corner without hesitation. His movements were controlled, lethal, protective. We reached the server core room just as two masked attackers forced open the access panel. Adrian fired 2 controlled shots. Both attackers dropped instantly. Silence slammed into the room. My chest rose rapidly. My fingers shook as I rushed toward the central console. I placed the lighter crest against the biometric override sensor. The screen flickered, then activated hidden protocol access. Sokolov emergency command lock engaged. Fleet encryption stabilized across all channels. I exhaled sharply, my knees almost collapsing beneath me. Adrian caught my arm, steadying me. "It's done?" he asked. I nodded weakly. "Your fleet is secure." Silence filled the server room again. Smoke drifted slowly through broken ventilation panels. Emergency sirens faded into distant echoes. Adrian's hand remained wrapped around my arm longer than necessary. Then he spoke quietly. "I imprisoned you, doubted you, and you still protected everything I built." My throat tightened, my voice almost cracked. "I protected lives, not power," I whispered. He studied my face. His calm authority finally fractured completely for the first time. "You protected me," he said. Lightning flashed through shattered windows behind us. Stormlight illuminated the entire room for half a second. I looked away slowly. My chest ached with emotions I didn't know how to name. "I don't know how to stop caring anymore," I whispered under my breath. I didn't know if he heard it, but his grip around my arm tightened slightly, then softened. And somewhere inside the wreckage of war, our defenses stopped being only strategic. They became personal. The storm finally began to fade by morning. Rain softened into a slow gray drizzle that blurred the harbor skyline like the world itself was exhausted from fighting. Emergency crews moved quietly across the compound, repairing damaged command systems and escorting wounded guards toward medical wings. War inside Adrian Volkov's world never ended with cheering. It ended with counting survivors. I stood on the balcony outside the upper command hall, watching ships reposition across the harbor water below. The ocean looked calmer, but not peaceful, just recovering. My fingers rested around a warm cup of tea someone had handed me hours ago. I hadn't taken a sip yet. My hands still trembled slightly. Behind me, I heard the command staff delivering quiet updates through encrypted communication lines. The rival Eastern Fleet has withdrawn beyond territorial limits. Internal traitor identified and neutralized during escape attempt. Remaining sabotage networks collapsing across supply sectors. Words that sounded like victory, but none of them felt like it. Footsteps approached slowly behind me, controlled, familiar. I didn't turn. "He was the security director who copied your credentials," Adrian said quietly. My chest tightened. "He's dead?" I asked softly. "Yes." The words settled heavily between us. I closed my eyes for half a second. The harbor wind brushed against my face, carrying faint salt and storm residue. That smell triggered another memory. Standing beside my father at a shipping dock as a child, listening to him explain how power always demanded sacrifice from someone who never volunteered. I opened my eyes again. "I didn't want anyone to die," I whispered. Adrian stepped beside me, resting his hands against the balcony rail. "Neither did I," he said. His voice sounded lower than usual, tired, honest in a way he rarely allowed himself to be. Silence stretched across the gray morning skyline. "The rival syndicate lost 3 senior command vessels during their retreat," he added quietly. "Their leadership structure is fractured now." I nodded slowly. "So the war is over," I said. He hesitated. "This battle is over," he corrected. The truth of that sentence settled deep inside my chest. I stared down at the harbor water again. My reflection blurred across the surface below. For the first time in years, I saw both versions of myself at once. The girl who ran from her bloodline, and the woman standing beside one of the most powerful crime leaders in the world. My fingers unconsciously pulled the silver lighter from my pocket. The engraved wolf shimmered faintly under the weak morning light. Adrian noticed immediately. "The elders contacted me last night," he said quietly. My chest tightened. "They're requesting formal recognition of your inheritance authority," he continued. "If you accept it, fractured syndicates would unite under Sokolov's strategic command again." I swallowed hard. My throat burned slightly. "And what do you think I should do?" I asked. He didn't answer immediately. That alone surprised me. Adrian Volkov was a man who always had answers ready. Finally, he spoke. "I think accepting it would make you one of the most powerful figures in organized crime history." My heartbeat stumbled. "And?" I asked softly. His jaw tightened slightly. His gaze stayed fixed on the harbor horizon. "And I think it would destroy the life you fought to build outside this world." The honesty in his voice made my chest ache unexpectedly. Silence wrapped around us again. I turned the lighter slowly between my fingers. My father's final gift, my family's final legacy, a symbol that carried strategy, power, and survival through bloodlines built on invisible wars. "I spent years hiding from that name," I whispered. The harbor wind carried my words softly into the gray morning air. "I watched what power did to my parents," I continued, "what it did to our home, our safety, our future." My voice almost cracked. I swallowed carefully. "I don't want children growing up in rooms where survival depends on secrets and guns." Adrian didn't interrupt. "I want something different," I said quietly. I placed the lighter gently into his hand. His fingers froze around it. "I'm refusing inheritance authority," I said. Silence fell so heavily it felt like time itself paused. He stared at the lighter, then slowly lifted his eyes toward me. "You understand what you are giving up," he said quietly. "Yes. You could reshape the entire criminal power structure." "I know." His voice lowered further. "You could stand beside me, not behind me." My chest tightened, hearing the unspoken meaning inside that sentence. I forced myself to hold his gaze. "I already stood beside you," I whispered. Thunder rumbled faintly in the distance, far beyond the fading storm. "And I'll always help protect lives when I can," I continued. But I won't build another empire that traps children inside violence disguised as protection. My voice trembled slightly, but I didn't look away. Adrian studied my face for a long moment. Conflict flickered across his expression again. Power, responsibility, emotional attachment, acceptance, loss, all fighting silently behind his calm exterior. Finally, he nodded once, not as a mafia boss, as a man accepting a decision he didn't want to influence. "The elders will not be pleased," he said quietly. "I'm not trying to please them," I replied softly. A faint shadow of something almost like a smile touched the corner of his mouth. It vanished quickly, but I saw it. Below us, harbor ships repositioned into normal operation route. Emergency lights dimmed across the compound towers. War slowly folded itself back into silence. No celebration, no victory speeches, just survival continuing quietly. Adrian turned the silver lighter once in his hand. His thumb traced the engraved wolf carefully, respectfully, like he finally understood the weight it carried. "You changed the outcome of this war without claiming power from it," he said. "I learned from someone who believed outcomes mattered more than credit," I replied. My father's voice echoed faintly inside my memory, calm, patient, always thinking 10 moves ahead and one life deeper. Adrian stepped closer to the balcony rail again. His shoulder brushed mine lightly. Neither of us moved away. Silence stretched across the harbor skyline. Peace, fragile, temporary, real enough for now. And for the first time since the storm began, the world felt quiet enough to hear my own heartbeat again. 3 weeks later, the harbor looked ordinary again. Cargo ships moved through shipping lanes like nothing had happened. Business resumed. Deals continued. The world outside never noticed how close invisible wars came to changing it. I stood inside the small cafe across the street from my brother's school, watching him laugh with friends through the window. Sunlight replaced storm clouds now. The air smelled like fresh bread instead of gunpowder and rain. Normal life. Fragile, but real. I wrapped my hands around a warm coffee cup. My fingers no longer trembled. Not as much. The bell above the cafe door chimed softly behind me. I didn't need to turn around. I felt him enter the room the same way I always did. The quiet shift in atmosphere. The silent attention that followed him like gravity. Adrian sat across from me without speaking. Simple black suit, calm posture, eyes still carrying the weight of decisions most people would never understand. "You're safe here," he said quietly. I nodded once. "And you?" I asked softly. He hesitated, just slightly. "I am managing survival," he replied. That sounded like the closest thing to peace his world allowed. I reached into my bag and placed the silver lighter onto the table between us. "I think it belongs somewhere it can protect more lives than mine," I said. His eyes studied the crest carefully. His fingers rested over it, but didn't pick it up immediately. "You're trusting me with your legacy," he said. "I'm trusting you with its meaning," I whispered. Silence settled between us. Heavy, honest, unfinished. Outside the window, my brother waved when he noticed me watching. I waved back, smiling softly. When I turned again, Adrian was still staring at the lighter, like he understood it wasn't just history anymore. It was a promise. He stood slowly. "So this is goodbye?" he asked. My chest tightened. "No," I said quietly. "It's distance." He nodded once, accepting something neither of us could explain out loud. He left without another word. The bell chimed softly again. I watched sunlight reflect across the silver lighter resting in his hand as he stepped onto the busy street outside. Some wars end with explosions. Some end with people choosing who they refuse to become. And sometimes, love doesn't stay. It survives quietly, in the lives it helps protect.